So on Eurogis, looking at the daily time frame, we can see market momentum is still bearish. We've come down and we've pushed back up to our kind of institutional area, which I'll mark out by this zone. We rejected off of that area and we could be retracing before pushing down again. I'm expecting to eventually take out these lows if possible. So we're currently reacting to that daily supply area that caused this break of structure. So we're reacting off that, and we could see a pullback to unmitigated supply zone above this price level. However, I don't think we will because price is heavily bearish. So we could just continue dropping down from here. Now let's drop down to the 4-hour time frame. So I'll remove this zone for now and this area. So obviously, as we mentioned in previous calls, we've had like liquidity grabs in both directions, liquidity sweeps, both directions. So I'm not really worried about liquidity at this point on the higher time frames. So as I've said, on the demand zone, we're rejecting off of high time frame supply. So let's look at potential areas over here. So within that daily supply zone, we have on the 4-hour, this area, this liquidity wick, which it's a liquidity wick because there's all this liquidity here. As you can see, all this liquidity, price has just jumped up and grabbed that liquidity with that wick over there. Therefore, it's a liquidity wick. So essentially, that's kind of the area we're looking at. We could consider this to be a liquidity wick as well because it does sort of grab liquidity. However, firstly, it's not a wick. It's just a body candle and it's kind of not in a very significant place. So we're going to consider this to be a liquidity wick. This wick covers the range of this wick anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. So like I said, supply has reacted to the daily zone and we're seeing a 4-hour bearish change of character. So if I just mark this up, you can see we have a 4-hour change of character there. It's a major low because it formed a new low, change character, and we're moving down. Now, if supply continues to hold, we could essentially see lower prices from here. If supply fails, indicating demand has regained control, then we could get a deeper pullback to unmitigated supply zones above. So what I'm saying is that that complex pullback on the daily time frame could be higher up around this area. But right now, supply is in control. Now, dropping down onto our 15-minute time frame, let's see in depth what we can see. Oh wait, we need to mark up our 4-hour supply zones considering we mitigated. The only two I'm kind of, you could say 3. I'm looking at 3 zones. This one, which is at the extreme. This one, which is an inside bar. And this one is less obvious. It's a liquidity wick. I'll explain in a second. As you can see, we've had this inside bar, which means there was liquidity. And then we've grabbed that liquidity with this sweep, meaning that's a liquidity wick. You could also consider that to be a high that was taken out by that. So we've properly grabbed liquidity in that case. So it is a liquidity wick. So now we have 3 zones. Next thing I'm going to do is drop down to my 15-minute, but I am also going to mark up this potential demand zone should supply fail. This is where we'd be looking to get in potentially. So now onto our 15-minute. So the demand zones in this area on the 15-minute, this was one demand zone, failed. This was another demand zone, failed. This was another demand zone, just about holding. okay? And it wasn't really like a tap in and move off. It was kind of arranged around there. And then we moved. And now we're at our 4-hour area. So demand is failing on the 15-minute time frame. Price hasn't yet gone into this area over here, which is the same as saying this kind of, oh, sorry, 4-hour, this kind of 4-hour demand. So we can expect price to get back to the demand before pulling back. So that would be potential targets. So we would be expected to take out this low should we get into the trade. Now, looking at it, it's a really nice shape. It's kind of like impulse move, then step up kind of formation. So looking at the 15-minute, what can we see? So, well, my main observation is, of course, yes, we have these 4-hour zones. We are rejecting off these 4-hour zones. However, I do want to just refine those zones a little bit. So I'm seeing this liquidity wick on the 15-minute now, potential entry zone, and it matches up with our 4-hour entry zone as well. I am seeing some sort of area around here. So not the entry zone, but I am also seeing a bit of liquidity around this area. However, you could consider it to be a liquidity grab, liquidity sweep, which are the same thing, by the way, purely because these equal highs were formed here and then this kind of grabbed into it. So I'm going to consider that to be a liquidity grab due to the fact that it broke structure and it came back and broke those highs. So liquidity grab potentially. Now, I would generally consider trades from this sort of area. However, I will only look to take those trades should demand start to fail on this area. So I want to see price go to the extremes. I want to see it go further up. Yes, there's a bit of structure here. It could just move from here to, in all honesty. So it's just really dependent on the move. So what can we look to trade? So obviously we've had this demand fail here as well. So that's another demand failure. So we do need to kind of observe the market at a different perspective. So like I said, we are in this kind of 15-minute zone. We are rejecting. Now, should we see a lower time frame structure break? So should we see sort of these lows get taken out? I would consider an entry straight off of this zone. So should we see some sort of break of structure, then I'd look to recent areas. I'd consider this as a potential area of entry. I'd consider this potential area of entry. I wouldn't consider this to be a potential area of entry. Reason being, it's been mitigated. So if I mark this up, you can see that it's mitigated by this supply zone is mitigated by this wick over here. So it wouldn't be a potential entry area. This, however, would. But again, we are reacting off of 1 minute demand. So unless I see that demand zone fail and then come back up to retest the order block, I wouldn't be looking to enter any sales just yet. Right now, market momentum is kind of in a range, which is nice. I can kind of see this as a Wyckoff distribution. So let's look at this. Now let's compare. Preliminary support, buyer's climax, AR. Preliminary support, buyer's climax, AR. So what I'm looking at is preliminary support, buyer's climax, AR. Secondary test and sign of weakness. Yeah, I guess you could call that secondary test. Not really any sign of weakness, which is a key factor in Wyckoff, but we could consider that to be a sign of weakness as a broken structure, but we need to be careful of that. Now, after the sign of weakness, we have an upthrust, which is the highest point. Again, this area is equal highs, meaning there's liquidity. So there's no real upthrust here to be looking at. But I guess, again, you can consider that to be an upthrust. Then we have a drop, which is not as low as the AR, and then we have last point of support. So a drop, which is not as low as the AR. Yeah, I guess you can call that, but this is more the drop. And then some last points of support, but I do want to see that breakthrough. So not really in clear Wyckoff play. However, I do essentially want to see the market momentum shift downwards by seeing that break of structure on the 1 minute. Once we've seen that, we can essentially see us drop further. And looking on the 3 minute, just to clear things up, you are kind of looking at potential liquidity grab there. And even on the 15 minute, you can kind of see the liquidity. So although this could break structure, it could just come down to demand and keep pushing up until we reach this wick or further up this wick. We have had that liquidity grab, so I'm kind of expecting this area to be tested. Now looking on the 1 minute on this area on the 15 minute, we are kind of seeing that inside bar there, which could be an entry zone. As far as I'm concerned, this would be, oh, there we go, we've broken structure. Now, let's look at potential entry points. So I'm keen to be looking off of entries. So 1 minute, what can we see? Any potential entry points? I'm going to just refine this. And yes, we can consider that to be potential entry area. Around 6. It's tough. It's a very unclear trade. However, it is a possible trade you could take. So I'm going to consider this to be our supply zone. I'm going to look to end off of 6.5, so slightly higher up. Take your target around 2.5 pips for the stop loss and put your take profit around this demand zone. Like on the 15 minute, we are expecting market to take out these lows, so I am keen to put it at this low. Yeah, we can consider that to be a liquidity grab, so we shouldn't see another liquidity grab anytime soon. So this would be a trade entry. And we are on a live call. I'm going to send this to my members. Let's see how it plays out. Just send this to my members. So yeah, it's quite clean. That's kind of one trade we're looking at. So I'm going to mark that up in red. There we go. And now let's go to GU. Let's start on the daily. GU has been looking clean recently. So yeah, on the daily break of structure, supplies are informed over here. We are reacting to that nicely. I drop down to the 4 hour. Yes, still bearish market momentum. We could consider that a 4 hour change of character to indicate buys. However, we are reacting off of higher time frame supply. So I would like to see us come down further. I'm going to mark this up as a zone, and I'm going to mark this up as a zone. Now jump to our 15 minute. What can we see? On our 15 minute, I don't know why this is there. On our 15 minute, we can see this area potential entry. However, I'm a bit worried about the fact that this has failed to create a new low. However, could it be divergence? Let's find out. It's not divergence, therefore it's not a buy there. So that's a good indication that we could continue down. I do want to see a bit of a range possibly, and then a tap into our area. On GBP USD, we can be looking at something along market structure that looks like, it's a 15-minute time frame. We do need to still see some sort of 15-minute changes of character, stuff like that. So let's just refine the zones for now. Yeah, yes, it's very, there's no clear trade on right now, but looking at the 1 minute, haven't exactly tapped into our area, so we can't be looking for a trade. But I do expect to see something. We have broken this area, so I do expect to see some sort of tap in to this area, hopefully this area, but if not, it doesn't matter. There's an inside bar there, so it is guarding our trade anyways. The potential area would be that, but again, focuses on EU right now. So let's drop back down to 1 minute. We look like we're about to enter. So let's see if I can get in on this trade. Oh, we just rejected. That's interesting. If the move starts here, I would be pretty surprised. Could mean high liquidity grab is available at this point. So this trade may not work out, but seems fine to me. There's no indication that tells us this trade is invalid yet. So Euro US dollar. Yeah, we just kind of dropped from there, but there was nothing to react off of. Maybe it's reacting off this low. Could that be a possibility? Yeah, definitely. Could just be that we've broken the low, we're retesting off the low, and we're breaking down now. Volume is high, it is getting into London session very soon. As we can see there, we're finishing Asian session, getting into London session. As you can see, London session begins very soon. So yeah, Asian finishes at 7. London opens at around 8. However, I've noticed that London actually starts around 7. It's just the actual big trades happen around 8, but that's when the moves happen. So the actual entries come around 7 o'clock. So yeah, I'm going to leave that order running. Sell limit. I'm going to, should we break through that area, I could potentially be looking at a pullback to this area. Yeah, I think I'll just enter from 995. Stop loss around 3 pips. Target will be this demand zone. Keep in mind. Keep in mind. You do want to see this area get taken out properly. So you do want to, if this area gets taken out, I will enter into this trade. So it's kind of like relying on this one to not work out into this. And I don't want to see price get to take profit before it reaches our entry level. As soon as we've gotten to this level even, any new entries on this trade are invalid, right? So should we tap into there and then come up to our entry? I would have cancelled the order by then. So that would have summarized things. No entries then. It's just basic law of supply and demand. Once we've mitigated demand, there's no reason to play out supply. So This is kind of what I'm looking at. On the 15-minute, I'm just going to send out these charts for people to analyze. Oops. Actually, yeah. Yeah, so we'll just watch how we go from there. Keep in mind, there could be a potential liquidity grab straight from this kind of area. Could be that liquidity is lying above this. Reason being, there's a bit of imbalance. I'll show you. So there's imbalance over here. It's very small. It could be that imbalance fuels that move up to grab our entry level before coming down. Again, more imbalances like forming. So I don't see, again, there's a huge imbalance here. I don't see a reason why price will go up except for that imbalance going on the higher time frame. The only thing I can see is a retracement of this point of interest. Yeah, so we'll have to wait this one out and kind of see it. It looks like it's going to hit our take profit before. Yeah, so now you have to cancel that order if you did have that order in. Reason being, trade's now invalid. The only time I essentially see that trade back to be valid is if we break that demand or break any of these demands. So if we test off of them, then it won't be possible to enter. So again, it's testing off of that. So if it just comes back to our level, then I'm not going to look to enter. I need to see it break demand. It can't be reacting off the demand zone because that means demand is in control. Do we have any questions? See again, reacting off demand on the 1 minute. Look at that. Huge rejection off of this demand zone. Okay, so that summarizes the call for today. That concludes it. And I'll catch you guys next time.